You counted every calorie, you tracked every step, and you're still gaining weight. You're not broken. The system is. What if your hunger, cravings, and stubborn fat weren't your fault, but a hormonal trap? Stay with me, because once you understand how insulin really works, everything changes. Hi everyone, my name is Mark Bates. I'm a metabolic health coach, and this video is on why 74% of adults still gain weight despite the counting all those calories. So it's a calorie counting lie. Did you know that 23 states now have obesity rates exceeding 35% of all adults? In 2013, no state had reached this threshold. This catastrophic acceleration happened during the peak of years of calorie counting apps, fitness trackers, and eat less, move more public health campaigns. The very tools and advice we were told would solve obesity have presided over its worst explosion in human history. 74% of adults and 40% of children are now overweight or obese. The calorie paradigm doesn't just fail, it failed spectacularly when medical institutions doubled down on the same broken advice. There is an obesity epidemic we talked about. The alarming obesity rates, the rapid acceleration, it gets worse and worse every year, and the widespread failure. Despite the use of calorie counting tools, 74% of adults in the United States and 40% of children are now overweight or obese. And calorie counting's success has got to be considered a spectacular failure instead. Despite the widespread use of these calorie counting apps and fitness trackers, 74% of adults and children are obese. Right? And you can see, look, it's not just the United States, it's worldwide. Right? It's everywhere. Something is broken with the system. Okay, the clinical evidence that changes everything. Dr. Troll Kalaginian documented a case that should have shattered conventional thinking. So the patient had type 2 diabetes, an A1C at 12%, on insulin therapy following standard low-fat, high-carb dietary advice with zero sustained improvement. The intervention was to put the patient on a low-carbohydrate, ketogenic diet with intermittent fasting. The outcome? A1C dropped from 12% to 6%, putting it below the diabetic range. The patient discontinued all diabetes medications, and the total weight loss was only 8 pounds. It didn't take a lot to get him there. This case violates everything conventional medicine teaches. Diabetes improvement without significant weight loss suggests glucose metabolism healed at the cellular level, independent of calorie restriction. Another patient saw triglycerides drop from over 1,000 to below 100. A third experienced LDL cholesterol reduction of 480 milligrams a deciliter. These outcomes exceed the most expensive pharmaceutical interventions. Repatha, a drug that costs over $10,000 a year, typically lowers LDL by only 60 points. Right? Recent meta-analysis confirms these aren't isolated cases. Diabetes remission rates reached 57% with low-carbohydrate diets compared to 31% for controlled diets at 6 months. The clinical evidence is overwhelming. The question becomes, why does conventional medicine ignore it? Well, the physiology they don't teach. Jean Mayer documented the true driver of hunger in 1953. Yeah, 70 years ago. Blood glucose fluctuations, not caloric intake, trigger hunger signals in the brain. Even modest blood sugar drops of 20 points activate ghrelin and suppress leptin, creating the biochemical cascade we experience as craving. Ghrelin is the hunger hormone, leptin is the satiety hormone. Here's what happens with a high carbohydrate meal. Carbohydrate ingestion causes rapid blood glucose spike, right? The pancreas then releases large insulin bolus, right? A serving of insulin. The insulin response overshoots, typically, creating reactive hypoglycemia within 2 to 3 hours. The brain interprets the glucose drop as an energy crisis. Hunger hormones activate while satiety signals are shut down. Meanwhile, insulin blocks lipolysis, so you can't convert fat into energy. The body cannot access stored fat for energy during this artificial crisis, creating an urgent cravings for quick carbohydrates. With low carbohydrate, high fat meals, minimal insulin releases. Blood sugar remains stable, fat oxidation continues, and satiety hormones like CCK and peptide YY increase naturally. Hunger becomes optional rather than inevitable, and this mechanism has been documented for 70 plus years. Medical schools still don't really teach it. The corporate machine behind the failure. This is where I get in trouble. Gary Ruskin's investigation through the Freedom of Information Act requests revealed the systematic corruption of nutrition science. Corporate funding documents show Coca-Cola spent $118.6 million over 5 years on scientific research and health partnerships, including major medical organizations like the American Cancer Society, American College of Cardiology, and the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. The company created the Global Energy Balance Network, a nonprofit shell organization that promoted just exercise more messaging while diverting attention from sugar consumption. Internal emails revealed Coca-Cola funded academic researchers who appeared in major publications and media outlets under the guise of scientific neutrality, promoting the idea that obesity resulted from inactivity rather than diet. 96 national health organizations accepted money from Coca-Cola and PepsiCo between 2011 and 2015, including the American Diabetes Association and National Institutes of Health. The Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics allowed dietitians to earn continuing education credits by attending Coca-Cola-sponsored sessions on hydration and exercise that promoted soda as a hydration option. The American Heart Association gave its Heart Check seal to sugary cereals like Honey Nut Cheerios and Cocoa Puffs because they were low in saturated fat. You had to pay for that Heart Check symbol. You didn't have to prove you were good for your heart. This wasn't influence. This was systematic capture of the institutions Americans were trusting for healthcare guidance. Makes you think, doesn't it? So I always say, follow the money. Okay, the ethical catastrophe. Medical ethics demands informed consent. Patients receive dietary advice without being told it has a 95 to 98% long-term failure rate for weight loss. They're not informed that calorie restriction often increases hunger through blood sugar fluctuations. It fails to correct insulin resistance and leads to muscle loss with metabolic slowdown. When these predictable failures occur, patients are told they didn't stick with it or they didn't try hard enough. They didn't have the willpower. Oh, BS. The blame shifts from the failed protocol to the patient's supposed lack of willpower. This creates shame, self-blame, and mental health deterioration while protecting healthcare providers from accountability for prescribing ineffective treatments. Patients are never told that insulin resistance, not willpower, drives their hunger. They're not informed that refined carbohydrates and seed oils promote hormonal chaos and inflammation. They don't learn that satiety is hormonally regulated. That's feeling full, not calorically determined. Proper informed consent would sound like this. And has your doctor ever said this? The conventional recommendations of reducing calories and fat has been standard for decades. However, large-scale trials show very low long-term success rates, especially with insulin resistance, cravings, or obesity. Your hormonal regulation of hunger, particularly insulin and ghrelin, plays a major role in weight and health management. Calorie restriction without addressing these hormonal drivers often increases hunger and slows metabolism. I want to offer all your options, including low carbohydrate approaches, which improves glucose control, reduces triglycerides, and increases satiety without calorie counting. You deserve to choose based on the best available science, not institutional inertia. I don't think your doctor ever said that. Mine never did. Anything less violates the fundamental principle of medical ethics. The institutional resistance problem. Physicians, and I love physicians. I've got a lot of friends who are physicians. Trust me, they really do care about their patients. Physicians who acknowledge this evidence still hesitate to recommend carbohydrate restriction. They fear liability for deviating from standard care, even though the American Diabetes Association, Diabetes UK, the Diabetes Association in Australia, and the European Association for the Study of Diabetes have all endorsed low-carb diets for type 2 diabetes since the 1919 to 1920 time period. They worry about peer backlash in academic environments where challenging consensus threatens promotions, referrals, and reputation. Their continuing medical education comes from sources funded by pharmaceutical and processed food interests, so they never learn about ketogenic therapy, fasting, or dietary diabetes reversal. Electronic health records make it easy to prescribe statins, metformin, or insulin, but there's no drop-down menu for reverse diabetes through carbohydrate restriction. It's not tracked. The system rewards treating diabetes, not curing them. Diseases, not curing them. Some physicians claim they need more long-term data on ketogenic diets, but we have 50 years of long-term data on high-carb, low-fat diets. The largest obesity and diabetes epidemic in human history, 95% failure rates for calorie restriction, and increasing childhood fatty liver disease. Doesn't that count that this is what you're not supposed to do? Right? Meanwhile, clinical trials show sustained diabetes remission with nutritional ketosis, and traditional populations thrived for generations on low-carb, high-fat diets. Standard of care is what most doctors do. Science is what's true. Ethics is what helps the patient. The intersection of all three is where medicine should be practiced. The first domino. Transforming mainstream medicine requires recognizing insulin resistance as the primary driver of chronic disease. Until medicine stops treating insulin resistance as a side effect and acknowledges it as the root pathology behind obesity, type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, Alzheimer's, PCOS, and many cancers, we remain trapped in symptom management. This recognition would force new diagnostic protocols with earlier insulin testing, elevate low-carb diets from alternative to first-line interventions, reframe obesity as hormonal dysregulation rather than moral failure, and shift funding toward root cause reversal instead of pharmaceutical maintenance. Success would mean patients being told, "You are not broken, you've been misinformed, and we can fix this." It would mean measurable disease reversals, diabetes without medications, resolved fatty liver, normalized blood pressure, and optimized triglycerides and HDL. Healthcare systems would see cost collapse in chronic care. VertaHealth's peer-reviewed data showed $9,600 per patient per year savings by reversing diabetes through nutritional ketosis. Medical education would teach the biochemistry of fuel partitioning, hormonal cascades of insulin and leptin, and nutritional therapy as primary treatment rather than as an afterthought. The paradigm shift moves from calorie restriction to hormonal regulation, from fat fear to whole foods, from symptom management to root cause reversal, from blaming patients to fixing physiology. The truth they need to hear. Millions of people follow conventional advice while blaming themselves for predictable failures. The father of type 2 diabetes, the father with type 2 diabetes, skips meals, stacks medications, terrified he'll lose a foot before walking his daughter down the aisle. The mother tries every healthy snack and 1,200 calorie limitation plans, gaining weight while losing hope as her doctor tells her to just move more. The child with fatty liver disease believes he's broken before hitting puberty. They need to hear this truth. You don't need more willpower. You need a new map. You're not failing. You've been failed by the system, by outdated science, by institutions that told you your biology doesn't matter. Hunger is a hormonal signal, not a moral failing. Cravings are the siren call of unstoppable blood sugar, not a sign of weakness. Your body responds exactly as designed to the wrong inputs. You can turn this around, not with starvation or shame, but with nourishment, knowledge, and support. You were never supposed to white-knuckle your way through every meal. You were supposed to feel satisfied, energized, and free. Your biology isn't your enemy, it's your greatest ally, once you feed it properly. For every day this truth stays hidden, more people are needlessly medicated, misled, and made to feel like failures. By the time someone reaches dialysis, 200 units of insulin, or their third cardiac stent, it's too late to say, we could have fixed this with food. Every patient who reverses their disease, every person who breaks free from cravings, every parent who gets their child off the blood sugar roller coaster doesn't just get health back, they get their life back. The revolution starts when enough clinicians, coaches, and patients stop asking for permission to challenge the system and start practicing what the science and outcomes already prove. The first domino has begun to wobble. It needs a few more strong nudges from brave practitioners, empowered patients, and a louder truth. Don't wait for medicine to change. Become the standard that medicine must eventually follow. Okay? So I'm giving you a call to action here. Be the change, right? Tell your clinicians, ask for coaches, and as a patient, you need to lead the way. Challenge the status quo. Don't accept what your doctor tells you without asking, is that really true? It probably isn't. Don't wait for medicine to catch up. Learn. Watch more videos on this channel. Watch videos on other channels. Get the information you need and empower yourself as a patient with truth. Right? Provide the knowledge to take control for yourself. Right? All right. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the appropriate section. And please, if you have any more ideas for things you want me to teach you about, this is a community. We're here to work together. Let me know. And if you haven't done so, please like, subscribe, and share this video with somebody who may need it. Thank you very much.